International Human Rights Day. This is a gathering organized by the Singapore Unity Project. The Singapore Unity Project is a bunch of us who are active in civil society, either in groups or organizations or individuals. So today we have the Really Free Market, as well as the booths from other NGOs like Think Centre Singapore, Anti-Death Penalty Campaign, Second Chances, and we have artists as well from the Artist Caravan, and other supporting groups like Sayoni, and we thanks Aware for coming as well. So now we're going to read out our statement for today. So if you all can hear us, I hope you can hear us. Okay? So freedom of speech and expression. Okay. So Rachel will start first. Sorry, and we have Yuan from the Singapore Deaf and Hard of Hearing Federation to sign the statement as well. So thanks.
Human Rights Day is commemorated globally to mark the occasion of the adoption of the 1948 Universal Declarations of Human Rights by the United Nations General Assembly. Today, we, members of civil society in Singapore, commemorate International Human Rights Day at the only official free speech area in Singapore, Speaker's Corner at Hong Lim Park. However, we note that we are unable to exercise the full extent of our freedom due to the state's limitations on speeches, even if it is speaking out against social ills such as racism and related discrimination.
2001 is a momentous year. 2011 is a momentous year. 10 years from 2001. Yeah. Globally, we witnessed the growing massive push for greater democracy and freedoms by people from various regions. The recent Occupy movement calls for greater accountability, transparency, and more equitable distribution of wealth against state repression in both political and economic spheres, against entrenched corporate interests that seek greater profits at the cost of workers' rights and welfare. Closer to home, we have seen how the movement calling for free and fair and clean elections were met with disproportionate police brutality on the streets of Malaysia.
Here in Singapore, the people's voice are gathering for greater change towards a more democratic and accountable system. The May 2011 general election produced a parliament with more elected opposition members. The presidential elections also produced a government-favoured president with the lowest vote share ever.
And less known to people, Singapore's human rights record was for the first time examined in the United Nations Human Rights Council at the Universal Periodic Review. In 1965, Singapore joined the United Nations and is bound to respect, fulfill, promote, and protect human rights in the UDHR.
It is therefore most disappointing that our government has rejected recommendations for greater civil liberties to repeal the death penalty, abolish outdated emergency laws such as the Internal Security Act, as well as the establishment of a National Human Rights Institution and an independent election commission. Such is the state of our fundamental freedoms.
Today our struggle, the people's struggle, is to reclaim our rights, our dignity and our fundamental freedoms. Without rights, we cannot claim to be a true democracy, one that is of the people, by the people, for the people. Looking ahead, we pledge to continue the promotion and protection of human rights for the people of Singapore. We will continue to monitor the government's implementation of human rights.
To quote the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Madam Navi Pillay, who said in 2008, "We must work for the full implementation of human rights on the ground in a way that affects and improves the lives of the men, women and children
who are all entitled, regardless of their race, sex, religion, nationality, property or birth, to realization of each and every right set forth in the Universal Declaration.
As such, we call on the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights, and especially our Singapore AICHR representative, to ensure the evolution of AICHR from its current emphasis on promoting human rights to actually protecting human rights. AICHR must evolve more investigative, evaluative and enforcement powers as well as preventive mechanisms. The Commission must be able to protect human rights and be able to take up cases from disenfranchised individuals, organizations and groups. This International Human Rights Day, we call upon the Singapore government to 1. Remove the mandatory death sentence and work towards the abolishment of the death penalty. Institutionalize human rights education in schools and the community. Establish a national human rights institution. Ensure the relevant ministries, especially the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Manpower and the Ministry for Community Development, Youth and Sports, actively promote and respect the UDHR, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW, and the Convention on the Rights of the Child.
To ensure that all members of Parliament read, understand and respect the UDHR, CEDAW and CRC, to sign and ratify the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities without reservations, to respect the right of the people of Singapore to safeguard, develop and transmit our cultural heritage for further generations by embarking on a truly open, transparent and consultative process with Singaporeans to review the current pace of development and redevelopment affecting sites that hold historical, cultural and heritage value. This is a statement delivered by the Singapore Unity Project.
Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks everyone.
Glad you are happy.